Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Krystal?
Indeed. Lots of developments to get to. We've got the chair of the Texas State Democratic Party here to tell us what's going on there ahead of Super Tuesday. We've got great friend of the show, David Pakman, to talk about our establishment figures like Nancy Pelosi starting to signal comfort with Bernie Sanders. And we also have Matt Taibbi to give us an update on all the latest with Russiagate. But we wanted to start with Superdelegates, Saagar.
Yes, that's right. So shocking news, not that shocking reporting, out of the New York Times.
Predictable reporting.
Basically, the Times spoke with 93 different superdelegates, so dozens of interviews. And in that plan, the Times says that party insiders are very willing, and not just willing, but actively planning currently, that if a broker convention is to occur, that they will try and take the nomination away from Bernie Sanders if he has the plurality and it is a broker convention. And it's pretty remarkable because some of them have basically gone out on the record in the New York Times saying outright, they're like, look, plans are developing. We need to make sure we have the best nominee. And remember, the way that the convention works is that only on the first ballot do the superdelegates not get a vote.
Right.
There's over, I think it was 500 to 700, I can't remember, but a decent amount of delegates that are allowed to vote however they would like on the second ballot.
Right.
And they said, even in the story, they are willing to risk intra-party divisions and even the possible, ousting of the Sanders wing of the party just in order to try and save the nominee. So they are very clear-eyed about what they're trying to do. I almost respect it, right? It's like in a mafia way.
That is the part that is so astonishing, is they know that it'll be a disaster for the party.
But they don't care. Yeah.
They know it'll do grave damage to the party, but they don't care, which tells you it's not really about defeating Donald Trump. It's about they would rather lose. That's what this article essentially reveals. Truly, truly, they would rather lose to Donald Trump and keep their grip on the party, all of their access, all of their power structures, all of their deal flows, all of those things, than let Bernie Sanders win.
Yeah.
That's the reality here. And it's stunning.
It's not that stunning because it reminds me also of, in 2016, that was with a big debate on the right and amongst Republicans. It was like, would you rather, and the secrecy of so many of the people who opposed Trump when it was Trump versus Hillary is actually, no, you would prefer a Hillary nominee because being able to run stupid super PACs about Benghazi actually makes them all a lot of money.
Right.
And that's the same thing with the Democrats, right? Like there's an entire nonprofit infrastructure who is just about resisting Trump, which is getting hundreds of millions of dollars in gig flow, essentially, that all flows through this town. And Sanders is a threat to that because A, he'll replace their gig because Trump is gone, who's their actual cash cow for the resistance.
True.
But B, he doesn't want to do any of the reasonable policy proposals that they've spent the last 4 years coming up saying this is how we defeat the Republican Party.
He's not going to listen to them. They're not going to be special. They're not going to be important to him and his administration. And they all know what it is to be in the opposition, right? They know what that looks like. They know how to. It's easy. They know how to live during those times. They know how to make money during those times. That's not a problem. And especially in the Trump era, it's been very lucrative, right? Many of them have their cable news contracts, or they can go on and rail about this or that. In a Sanders administration, that all is gone. So, they tell the New York Times, we don't care if we're going to destroy the party. We don't care if we're going to divide the party. If he doesn't come in with the majority of the delegates, we are going to try to take it from him on the second ballot. Great Sanders friend, Elizabeth Warren, weighed in on this last night in a CNN town hall. She got a question explicitly about superdelegates from one of the audience members. Let's take a listen.
During the Nevada debate, you and every other candidate on the stage, except for Bernie, hello somebody, indicated that the candidate with the plurality of delegates should not necessarily be the nominee. This essentially means the will of the voters could be denied by the superdelegates and the DNC, which is basically undemocratic. And in my opinion, is a bunch of baba booey, to put it politely. Can you explain why the will of the voters should not matter if no candidate reaches a majority of delegates?
So you do know that was Bernie's position in 2016?
Not necessarily, no. He won 22 states, so he went to the convention for his voters.
That was Bernie's position in 2016, that it should not go to the person who had a plurality.
Okay.
So, and remember, his last play was to superdelegates. So the way I see this is you write the rules, before you know where everybody stands, and then you stick with those rules. So for me, Bernie had a big hand in writing these rules. I didn't write them, but Bernie did when they were putting together the 2016 platform for the Democratic Convention. Those are the rules that he wanted to write and others wanted to write. Everybody got in the race thinking that was the set of rules. I don't see how come you get to change it just because he now thinks there's an advantage to him for doing that.
Interesting. I mean, what is so disingenuous about that argument is, of course, the Sanders people on the DNC Unity Commission, Reform Commission, what they pushed for was to get rid of superdelegates entirely.
Right.
The compromise position that the DNC hacks forced upon them was keeping the superdelegates on the second ballot. So it's not like Bernie Sanders was like, yay, superdelegates on the second ballot, which she knows. It's incredibly disingenuous. But the other part of this that's very interesting doesn't quite jive with some of the things that Elizabeth Warren said in the past about superdelegates. Jordan Uhl, a journalist, found these clips of Warren talking about exactly this thing previously. Let's take a listen.
I'm a superdelegate. And I don't believe in superdelegates. I don't think that superdelegates ought to sway the election.
We're learning today that a new book that is coming out by Donna Brazile, the former acting chair of the Democratic National Committee, that the campaign of Secretary Hillary Clinton was far more influential at the Democratic Party, the Democratic National Committee, than we previously knew. Do you think, though, that what we're learning from Donna Brazile's book suggests that the campaign, that what the Democratic National Committee did, meant this election was rigged?
Yeah, I think it was.
It's a pretty powerful charge.
Well, what we have to focus on now as Democrats is we recognize the process was rigged. And now it is up to Democrats to build a new process, a process that really works and works for everyone. And that as we go forward, we have confidence in the integrity of the system, that Democrats, as they run a primary, are going to let the people speak, and that we're going to have a candidate who's the candidate chosen by the people. That's our job. In most democracies around the world, the person who gets the most votes wins. How about we make America that kind of democracy?
How about it, Saagar? Why don't we make America that kind of democracy? I mean, let's be clear about what they're proposing here. They're proposing that all these contests that we're covering, that y'all are voting in, volunteering in, organizing for, donating to, all those contests are going to be invalidated in a group of party elites to pick who they think the nominee should be.
The most stark one was that first clip where she's like, I don't believe in superdelegates. I'm a superdelegate. And the second one, I think it was rigged. Think of it. Even, what was that, Judy Wood? She was like, wow, you said it was rigged.
Yeah, that's a big statement.
It's huge. And she's out there like, oh, it's rigged. And now she's out there being like, oh, it's a process. Well, yeah, who makes the process, people? That's part of how did we get to this era in which we're all screwed? Because the process made it so that people can extract a lot of resources and get very rich from it, while everybody else is walking around with a lot of costs to their everyday life that keep going up. Is that a process? Yes, that is the process.
And let me just say, putting her hypocrisy and flip-flopping aside, I don't even think this is the right political calculus, because she may not even win her own home state. If she does, it'll be the only state that she wins. Do you really think you're going to end up as the unity consensus candidate when, look, a lot of the party doesn't love you either, let's remember, and a lot of Wall Street donors and healthcare executives, et cetera, involved in the DNC don't love you either. You may not win a single state. You really think you're going to be the unity candidate? No. Her best bet at this point would be to start trying to rebuild the bridge with Bernie Sanders, try to suck up to him, try to be nice to him so that maybe you'll be relevant in a Sanders administration. This ain't it.
See, I actually think the superdelegates will be comfortable with Warren because of all of those early, remember all the signaling that she had that she would still take big dollar fundraisers and all that stuff.
Yeah, but they're not going to pick her.
No,
they're talking about, the New York Times article, they're not talking about her. They're talking about Sherrod Brown, Michelle Obama, which is like complete fantasy
the real
land.
Dream.
I mean, they're basically not talking about anyone who's in the race right now. They're talking about a lot of people on the outside to bring in. So she's not going to be the unity candidate, and she's deluding herself if she thinks that she is.
Yeah, they're all betting on this, like anything can happen. That's why, and that's the thing is that look at Buttigieg and Bloomberg and Biden. I mean, Bloomberg is essentially operating as a Bernie super PAC because he's destroying Biden's candidacy all across the South. By the way, I said that would happen, but
we both did. Yeah.
And then it's like that. It's just amazing because all of them, by trying to stay in the race, are actually helping the one person that they don't want to be the nominee, all betting on this contested convention in which, as you rightly say, what are the superdelegates even floating? Not them.
Well, because what matters in terms of actual delegate math? You have to get to that 15% threshold in order to win delegates. So if you have a lot of candidates who are splitting the vote, then you have more and more states where Bloomberg and Biden and all the rest don't even make it to 15%. I mean, that may well be the case in California, which is the biggest state in terms of delegates going on Super Tuesday, where Bernie is very dominant. He and Bloomberg are the only two with real organizations in the state at this point, spending real money, playing to win. Bloomberg hasn't really gotten any traction there. It's very possible that Bernie picks up a large majority of the delegates there because so many people fall under 15%.
Yeah, certainly.
That's why it matters. All right, we're going to tell you what's on our radars. That's next.